Satisfactory Update 1.1 is out now on the experimental branch of the game, so I dove into it to take a look at all of the new features. We saw previews of most of them in the trailer a couple weeks ago, but it's a whole different thing to look at them up close and personal, and I discovered a few new things. In fact, I can almost maybe guarantee that I've discovered more little things than any other creator who's making a roundup video like this, because I've scoured the menus of everything for anything new and found some pretty cool stuff. But let me know in the comments if I missed anything, because honestly, I'm sure I still did. First of all, if you want to access the experimental branch, here's how. First of all, use this path up on the screen or in the description to locate your save file and back it up by copying and pasting the file to a different folder on your computer, and this is just in case your save file gets messed up or corrupted. Then on Steam, right-click on Satisfactory and click on Properties, then in the Betas dropdown, select Experimental. If you're playing on Epic, there will be an entirely separate game called Satisfactory Experimental that you can install and open. And it'll pick up your old saves. You don't have to do anything different, just install the game. Alright, let's get into all the stuff. New build modes. There are a couple new build modes in the game now. Belts now have an additional curved mode that allows you to create large, smooth curves. Pipes also gain the same curved build mode as well as straight build mode, which has been long requested. Item counters. Hold on. Item scanners? Here we go. Conveyor throughput monitors are available in the Awesome Shop. These items can be placed at any point on a belt, and once placed, will begin a 60-second calibration process to determine how many items per minute are passing through that belt. From there, it will continue updating. This is a great sanity check for any belts that are causing you trouble, but other than aesthetics, there aren't a lot of other reasons to use them if everything is actually running smoothly. They are really cool though, I must admit. Nothing wrong with spamming these everywhere just for looks, even if you know your numbers are right already. Conveyor wall holes. Conveyor wall holes are placeable holes for walls that conveyor belts can go through and snap to. These are available in the Awesome Shop and are very useful for aesthetics. Sure, you can just send a belt through a wall, but that doesn't look very good. This lets you do it properly and saves you having to align belts so they fit on the pre-existing walls that have built-in holes. You can just put these wherever. I did have a bit of trouble getting these to function, but I think those are probably just some bugs that will get worked out before the update arrives on the stable branch of the game, so nothing to worry about. Hypertubes. Hypertube junctions and branches are unlocked in the same hub milestone as other Hypertube parts. Hypertube junctions are three-sided hubs that allow you to choose between two different directions when approaching them in the Hypertube from any of those three directions. Hypertube branches work similar, except they're shaped more like a Y, and you can only choose your direction if you're approaching it from the long side. If you're approaching from one of the branches, you will be forced down the long side. On both, when you are able to change directions, you'll see a white indicator showing which route you're going to take, and you can press E to swap to it. The Hypertube cannon enthusiasts among you may have realized the potential here. Hypertube cannons as we know them can cease to exist. Now all you need is a single entrance and a junction. Go around in circles as many times as you want to build up increasing speed, then spam the button to change which part of the junction you go down, and boom, your own Hypertube cannon with a fraction of the power cost and space cost of the original design. Except, whoops, I made a little alignment mistake here. Let's try that again. That's better. You could easily scale it up with more entrances for more boosting if you wanted to go even farther or even faster while still being more compact and more power efficient than the normal launcher. Here is me using just 3 entrances to get all the way across the map. That is impressive. Trains. Train buffer stops have been added to the hub milestone that contains trains and platforms. These buffer stops can go on a dead end of a train track to prevent you from driving off the edge and derailing. Now you may be asking yourself, why? The trains don't derail like that. And you'd be right, they didn't. But in 1.1, they now do. So these rail buffers are potentially useful if you find yourself driving trains down unfinished rails manually. If nothing else, it's a nice bit of immersion for the people that treat this game like a train sim instead of a factory sim. Lastly, is you can now place block signals or path signals on the right or left side of the track now without changing the direction. Just press R to toggle. Vertical mergers and splitters. Vertical mergers and splitters essentially work kinda how you'd expect. They are not a separate buildable, but will instead adapt a normal merger or splitter to a vertical one when you hover their hologram over a conveyor lift. You can then rotate it to determine where the inputs and outputs are going to face. Once it's placed, it works exactly like any other splitter or merger. When it comes to deconstruction, you can actually dismantle the top or bottom half of the lift, and then you'll have a hole where you can build a new lift out of. This is actually kind of nice because if you just wanted to bring a lift up and split it at a certain point without having the upper half, you can just do that. Priority merger. Priority mergers are in the quartz tree of the MAM and are unlockable after unlocking crystal oscillators. In the menu of a priority merger, you simply select which inputs have which priority level. Here you can see that I've set one to be the highest, and it has completely stopped the other inputs as long as that output belt is fully saturated. If I make room on the output belt, then it can allow the second priority belt to come through. If I increase the output again, so there's room for all three inputs, then everything comes through just like a regular merger. Now if I set two belts to highest priority, but limit the output belt again, so it could normally only take one of those input belts, it essentially functions like a two-way merger, alternating between the two highest priority inputs. This is a simpler setup than the Smart Splitter as you don't have to select specific parts, and instead it's just based on the input slot. Elevators. The new elevator shaft is an awesome buildable that's going to change the game. Instead of making stairs that you'll never use or using the hover pack to get everywhere, now you can use an elevator. I had some trouble finding where the elevator is unlocked, but I eventually found out that it's in the Awesome Shop under Architecture and Traversal. Once unlocked, they can be found under Transport in the build menu. Now unfortunately, there is a limit, which appears to be 200 meters tall. It will show up as 196 meters because that's not counting the top and bottom floors, but that's 50 floors that you can traverse in a single elevator, which is not bad. Unfortunately, you can't stack any more on top of that. 200 meters is the limit, but this buildable is not limited by anything else. That meaning you can drag out that full 200 meter height in one go. You don't have to build it 10 blocks at a time like the normal Zoop limit. You can also add a floor stop at any point after you've constructed the elevator shaft by building one at any point along the elevator. Once inside the elevator, you can use the console to select which floor you want to travel to, and you can also change the music between various different new music tracks. And I love that there is elevator music. Such a great idea, so funny. But it'd be nice to be able to add our own, because I have a song I'd like to use. Elevator operator. Also on the console, you can customize the name, logo, and color for each floor so they're easier to remember. New features in Nudge Mode. Nudge Mode now features vertical nudging. This has been long awaited and will allow for the full range of precision movement. Once you're in hologram lock mode, the default keys are page up and page down, and oh crap, hold on. Yeah, so I guess I can't use my little 60% keyboard unless I change the keybinds for this, which, thankfully, you can do. But just as exciting is an unannounced addition, which is Infinite Nudge. No more need for mods, you can now nudge infinitely in any direction to your heart's content. Alright, I didn't test if it was truly infinite, but I feel like this is long enough that it's effectively infinite. Since it doesn't seem like patch notes were actually published today, it's unclear whether this is intentional or a bug, but I am very much hoping that it's intentional. Automatic blueprint connections. Blueprints now have a build option that allows you to connect existing belts and train tracks to each other. This is useful for chaining blueprints together, but you can also use it to attach a blueprint to an existing build. All you have to do is aim the blueprint at the belt or railroad that you want to connect to, and you'll hear a snapping sound, and you should be able to see where the attachment points are. Now you can click to confirm the connection and then drag out the blueprint. Belt or track will be created in between, and then you can place it down at its final destination. For dismantling purposes, the new belt or track will be considered part of the blueprint that is being placed. Now unfortunately, it doesn't look like you can change the belt build mode in this mode, so you can't go between straight and curved or anything like that. Do be aware though that you need to have a belt or track in one of the blueprints as a connection point. Trying to connect two splitters together will not generate a new belt. Various cosmetics. There are a ton of new cosmetics, which I will run through all of right now. Each of them you can get in the Awesome Shop on various tabs. First is the basic shelf unit. These can be stacked up, and while anything can be put on them technically, they are specifically designed to hold personal storage containers. Next we have the Beam Expansion Pack and Structural Cable Pack. The first unlocks the H-beam, shelf beam, and round concrete beam, and the latter unlocks the braided cable and braided cable cluster. These all offer a lot of great flexibility, and some can even be painted. There is also the corner road barrier, which serves as a corner piece to use with the existing road barriers. Next is the ventilation bundle, which contains a rotating fan and a vent, which can be placed on walls or foundations. The roll-up gate door is huge. I thought it would just be an attachment for the existing gate wall, but no, it's big enough to accommodate the truck. It opens and closes within 4 foundations for a truck and 1 foundation for a Pioneer. New foliage destruction animation. It was always a bit weird that foliage would simply pop out of existence when you ran over it in a vehicle. Now there is a big poof animation when you destroy something out in the wilderness. Crash Site Dismantle. This was actually one of the very first things that we learned about for this update. You can dismantle crash sites that you've already opened. Pretty nice. Scrolling long names. On nameable items that have screens, the screens now scroll to show the full name if that name is too long to display, such as on power switches or train stations. Photo mode. Photo mode is definitely going to need its own dedicated video, but suffice to say that screenshots and videos are going to look a lot better. You have access to basic camera controls, including manual focus and aperture. There are also a ton of color filters and visual filters to give your screenshots a unique look. You can decouple the camera from the Pioneer and put them into different poses or move them around. To get truly cinematic shots, you can decouple the camera and enter dolly mode. This allows you to set a start and end point for the camera, and then when you play it back, the camera will smoothly animate between those 2 points back and forth. There are a few weird things about it, like the camera only moves in a straight line between the start and end point, it doesn't follow any kind of custom path, and the distance limit from the Pioneer seems pretty short. But those are small complaints, and it's cool that it exists at all. Advanced game settings. There is one new cheat option in advanced game settings that overrides the fuel requirement. This means that vehicles, drones, and alien power augmenters can function normally without any fuel input. New gameplay options. So in the menus, I actually noticed a couple brand new gameplay options that I think are going to be really nice. You can now change where dismantle crates appear when your inventory gets full and you're deconstructing buildings. Instead of on the build site like normal, you can select for them to appear right next to you instead. You can also have dismantle crates merge with each other within a 100-meter range. These settings are amazing for scenarios like the dreaded moment where you unpaint your foundations with a full inventory and suddenly get all of your excess materials back one at a time. Signs now have directional arrows, so you won't have to worry about creating upside-down signs anymore. Some new sample copy settings allow you to set whether you want a recipe and overclocking to be copied when sampling a building, or if you want to copy customization, as in how you painted it. I would prefer these copying features to be an in-game toggle on the build gun, since I doubt I'll want the same setting throughout my entire playthrough, but it's still nice to have it somewhere. Controller support. This update comes with controller support for the game, which gives us a sneak peek into what the console release might look like. The footage you're seeing in the background is my first experience using a controller for Satisfactory. You can see me struggling a little bit as I read what all the controls are, which makes sense as there are a ton of them. I don't even remember half the keyboard controls, and I've played this game for hundreds and hundreds of hours. Overall, I felt it was pretty intuitive and the mappings were clearly labeled in-game. I was especially impressed with the UI for a production machine, which even has a mapping for copy and paste. This is a really great implementation, although it's definitely slower than keyboard and mouse, due to things like having to use the radial wheel for accessing your toolbar rather than pressing a number on your keyboard. One of my favorite features is that when picking up foliage, you can just hold X to toggle on automatic pickup. Just a cool little quality of life choice that's going to make it really nice. The only real complaint I have here is that you have to toggle between keyboard and mouse and controller. I like when games can auto-detect and automatically switch to controller when you press an input on one or the other, but in this case, switching control schemes disables the other input completely. It's fine, it's just a small gripe. Other games do this, it's not a big deal. So that is my dive into everything I was able to find about Satisfactory 1.1. If you found anything else while playing, please let me know. And be sure to report any bugs on questions.satisfactorygame.com. Don't put them here, no one's going to see them. and there's plenty of them. I've seen plenty on Reddit already today. Let me know if you'd like to see a deep dive into photo mode or anything else new in 1.1, and subscribe to Satisfactory News for more videos like this one.